Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Melanie Tana. I love to make videos about stories of all different kinds, and lately I've been reading the high fantasy series, The Wheel of Time. It's taken me a while to get through it as I've been reading other books along the way, but yeah, I make update videos on what's happened in the books, kind of as a summary, and a few thoughts about them. And today I'm returning to my Wheel of Time thoughts with book 11. I'll be talking about the prologue through chapter 17 of the book. Just letting you guys know, I don't know where my adapter is to connect my phone, which I film with, to my microphone. So for now, it will be the sound quality that it is, and we can just deal with that. I will try to speak clearly. I have some allergies, so that's just gonna be how it is. Everybody, oh my gosh, you fat lard. We love it though. This is Teft. And for those of you who've read Stormlight Archive, yeah, you know that's him. You are looking so beautiful on the camera right now, buddy. Oh, sharp biscuits on my arm. So I'm just gonna jump into my thoughts. I have a few. Just kind of summarizing what I read through Knife of Dreams, which is book 11 of The Wheel of Time. Right off the bat, I noticed with book 11 it was going to be way more interesting for me personally than book 10 was. Book 10 was a lot of leading up to stuff, and I just could not fully get into it, mostly because so many of the POVs were not the main characters and it was driving me crazy. But yeah, full spoilers. I don't know if I already said that about the next little bit. So the prologue is long. I wrote down quick summaries of what happens, to kind of give you an idea of where everybody's at. So the White Cloaks and the Shan are allies. This opens with Galad, who is one of Morghase's kids. He wants to kill Aemon Valda for the accused unaliving and mistreatment of his mother, Morghase. They duel and Galad succeeds. He's a little uncomfortable to read. He always gives me the heebie-jeebies because he's so righteous, and that led him to the White Cloaks. Is kind of intense. It switches over to Sarath, who wonders about Tuan and if she's alive or dead. Later in the prologue, the Red Ajah meet in the tower. Alviarin is doing sneaky dark friend things, as per usual. Later we see Galena. She wants to get free of her oath of obedience. She wants the oath rod. Galena gets captured by Perrin, who tries to make a deal to free his wife. But she lies when she agrees to help. Egwene wakes after the ending of the last book. She's in a coach with Elaida's Aes Sedai. They're bickering a lot. Egwene tries to warn them about the dream she had of the Shan attack, and she is hardly punished physically at first, and is not sentenced to death. Kind of see some hope in her situation, which I thought was interesting. I loved the end of the prologue because Egwene was like, oh man, the tower's falling apart, there's something I can do about it. She still sees herself and acts as Amyrlin, but is patient. And since they're treating her like she's in training, she's determined to sort of make the best of her situation. In chapter 1, the POV is Swan, who is the previous Amyrlin's seat, and she is thinking of Gareth Bryn whilst also worrying about Egwene. And then she goes to inform the rebel Aes Sedai that Egwene and Leanne are alive, and then Egwene tells them through her dreams, and tells them not to rescue her. And then Lelaine basically says that she would willingly become Amyrlin if Egwene doesn't make it. So in chapter 2, Yonan, one of the Aes Sedai with the little tower, the rebels, travels with her warder without explaining to him the plan to Tar Valon in disguise. Yonan informs Elida once she sneaks in and takes off her disguise. Removes the weaving. She informs Elida of Egwene's abilities with dreaming and everything, and also Egwene's discoveries, giving info on the sisters. So that's sort of how that chapter ends. In chapter 3, Forsaken meet in Teleran Riod. They are served there by these cool undead creatures who can kind of read their minds. It's very cool. They are sort of in support, not necessarily actual support, but they have been backing up the rebel Aes Sedai so as to keep the tower separated. and therefore less powerful. Morden orders them not to hurt Rand yet, but he shows everyone a display of Mat and Perrin's faces, sort of an image of them, and says, you can get these guys though, you can unalive them. And so that is that chapter. Chapter 4. Perrin starts seeing images and swirling colors when he thinks of Mat. It's very interesting. There's a prophecy about the dragon in the Shan-Chan culture that mentions the Wolf King in regard to the final battle and the last days sort of stuff happening. And Ty Lee, is she battle general? What is her title? So I'm gonna say she's a general for the Shan-Chan. She's wary of anyone referencing Perrin that way because that would mean that things are happening, but they are. She just is in denial. Perrin makes a deal with the Shan-Chan to attack the Shido. It's a big, negotiation, and he wants to get his wife back, so he makes a deal with Shan-Chan. In chapter 5, we have Faye's perspective again. She's attending Savannah, and it's mentioned that Galena is being treated very harshly, but that Faye hopes the Aes Sedai can still help them escape. We know that Galena is shady, though, and probably can't be trusted. And then Faye manages to acquire the Oath Rod, which she hopes will get Galena to help them escape. And then she also has Roland's promise to help, even though he flirts with her. And it's very common for Gashine to, I think, marry... I don't know if it's their captor exactly how it works, but he's been flirting with her and talking about marrying her, even though she's married to Perrin. And playing, he wants to play kissing games with her and stuff, and it's just a little inappropriate when you've captured someone, in my opinion. Anyway, in chapter 6, we move on to Mat's perspective. Luca's traveling show is staying in a prosperous town for now. Mat has also been seeing swirling colors when thinking about Rand and Perrin. Mat buys a good horse called a Razor. He's never seen one before, but he's heard of him. He's a horse guy. Mat's a horse girl. Anyway. And then when he returns to camp, Noel is telling Oliver stories about Jane Farstrider. And he seems to know a lot about Jane. And then it is announced that camp of Shan-Chan soldiers are setting up camp nearby. So, bit of a red flag there for the town that they're staying in. In chapter 7, Mat checks on the Aes Sedai, who are, for some unknown reason, channeling. And he discovers that Bethamin channeled weaves too powerfully, and the channeling overpowered her since she's not trained. And so the Aes Sedai decide to sort of teach her so that she won't destroy herself by overusing or poorly using the power. But there is still the threat of the Shan-Chan discovering any woman who can channel. In chapter 8, Luca decides to leave the area. Mat and Eludra discuss how to use her fireworks in the future. It's very interesting. Tuan casually mentions that she wonders if it was the Dragon Reborn, Rand, who blew the Horn of Villiers. And it was Mat, and Mat's stays quiet about it, and is But then Mat gives Tuan the horse as a gift. She's also experienced with horses, so they can bond over that. And that's something I do like about this prophesied relationship of theirs. They have common interests, and as much as they are confused about each other as in their gender differences and in the cultural differences, they still get along pretty well, it seems, and they have common interests such as horses. While they're out riding horses together, they come across these ruins, and Mat has an old memory of someone else's memory of dying there in battle, and he starts to wonder about how the memories work of people long gone, and he just kind of decides that the Elfin kind of collect memories as you enter their world, and therefore can distribute them as you leave. Oh hey! We're just gonna let him explore so you guys can enjoy my cat in the background. On to chapter 9. Mat learns about Tuan from Eginin, who talks about the assassinations of Tuan's brothers and sisters. So, there's attempts between them. It's just a very toxic royal environment for Tuan. The Aes Sedai are very curious about their weaving not affecting Mat, and they kind of test it out, and rocks that they can shoot, and sparks off of flames that they produce can still affect him. So it's like actually channeling, like directing it at him doesn't work, but he can kind of experience the effects of some people's channeling. So I think that's interesting, because he's got the fox head medallion that like gets cold when someone's trying to channel, and it doesn't affect him, protects him. And then Tuan gets outed as this powerful Shan-chan, and there's conflict with the Aes Sedai. They want to get her help in protecting women who can channel from them, and at the same time prove to her that like this is not how it should work, and if you can control the Adam, like it's a little sus. Anyway, there's conflict, and Matt kind of interferes and calms everything down. Chapter 10 was a very interesting one. It was one where I was like, whoa, things are happening. And it was fun to read. So Matt's flirting with Tuan. They spend more time together. He's good at giving her gifts. Tuan jokingly mentions the Finn, which is significant to Matt, obviously. He's like, they're the ones who told me we were gonna get married. And she's like, that's silly. Like, she doesn't know that, but she thinks like their existence is impossible and like just a fairy tale. And he's like, well, like to himself, like I met them, like I know them personally, they told me things about my future. So they come across a village, and it's an old village with architecture that reminds Matt of a place in his old memories, and he is hit with the realization that this place has been long gone, and this country, the architecture of this country, has been lost for centuries. And he watches as a peddler crosses into the city, interacting with the city. It's like a village, interacting with the village, and tells him to move on, yells at him to move on, but the peddler stops to speak with people, and then the village starts sinking into the ground and swallows up the peddler and leaves nothing but his hat. And it was so scary. All these ghost people and in their little village just sinking into the earth and disappearing. It was kind of terrifying, honestly. And after that trauma, everyone in Luca's traveling group are having a hard time, but Luca motivates them to move on. And then later, this is another significant part of this chapter, Tom is reading the letter Moraine wrote for him before she passed. And Matt wonders about it and asks about it, and it's at this point that Tom shares it with him because it is significant to Matt and relevant to him. In Moraine's letter, she says that she knew she would be fighting Lanfear and that she would be perceived as dead, though she is not. And then that it would have to be Matt, Tom, and a man that Moraine does not know who could come save her, or else she won't succeed. So she has some notion of what it would take for her to possibly succeed in escaping. And they don't really know how to get to her, so Noel sort of volunteers as the third with some knowledge of how to help, and Oliver actually offers some help. I think some of the things Brigitte said, he remembered, like how to get to the Finn or something about where they are. Anyway, so Moraine's alive, which I don't know if we were supposed to be surprised by that, but I liked the way it was revealed, and I'm like getting hyped. And then the rest of the book, spoiler, did not go into that yet, so I'm very excited for that eventually. But that was very interesting, and also she called Tom her dearest Tom. So anyway, going on to chapter 11, Tuan wants to visit a hell, which is a type of tavern that's sort of rougher around the edges. Tom finds a tavern that will kind of work. He gets word that Shan-chan have arrived ahead on their path and are trying to find a Tuan impersonator. So they will not believe that Tuan is alive. They will see Tuan and be like, that's a fake, that's a fraud. As they leave the hell, swordsmen attack. Matt defeats several of them, but he fails in attacking a woman who is attacking him because he is sort of burdened by the lives of women that he has had to take in the past. But Tuan ends up saving him. Going on to chapter 12, we have a Perrin POV. He's worried about Aram. Aram's sort of like consumed by his like leaving of the Tinkers and abandoning that ideology, and he hasn't really found himself. They've traveled to Almazar. There's a clerk there that they're talking to who kind of just like spews out beetles and like collapses into this thing of beetles. It's very icky, And everyone's like, a bubble of evil. And Perrin just shuts down their fears by being like, these beetles are harmless. And moves on. Because he's just worried about his wife. Tylee and Perrin make a deal to acquire Forkroot. Which, if you don't know, is a tea that can subdue a person's channeling. So they want to get the Shido, and the Shido have a lot of powerful wise ones, so they've got to, you know, give them some Forkroot to take care of that. Perrin, when they're leaving, takes an arrow to the arm that was aimed at his chest. He went to like answer a question and turn his arm, and it saved his life. The men who fired the arrows took poison instead of being taken prisoner. He wonders to himself if it was the Forsaken, which we can safely assume it was because they've been ordered to take him out, and Matt. So going on to chapter 13, Elaine watches a fight between hers and Aramel's troops. Birgitte is leading everything. They don't quite have enough troops. They have to like make gateways to different fighting spots, kind of spread thin. But new troops arrive, about 10,000 in number, with the guardsman lieutenant Charles, I wrote this badly, Guybon, who's leading them. So that's good. In chapter 14, also Elaine. These next few chapters are Elaine. Rianne Corley reports that a Soldam has seen the Weaves and has admitted to having seen the Weaves. And she believes, the Soldam herself believes that she should become Damani and Collard. But Elaine wants to send this person to the Shanchan so that they can see proof that a Soldam can channel, like, that this is all the wrong thing here. They're not quite fully in reality about what they're doing and the slavery that they've enforced. Anyway, going on to chapter 15, Elaine gets lost in the palace, which is kind of strange since she's lived there her whole life. And things are shifting around, and later we get confirmation that that is happening. People are getting lost in the palace. It's similar to seeing ghosts. It's part of that whole issue of the prophesied times. Avienda observes her different ter'angreal and what they do, such as like inflicting pain or like drawing water from the air. And then wise ones enter to announce the Aiel are leaving Caemlyn. So Elaine has to say goodbye to Avienda, which is sad. Yeah, especially because they're sisters, like through magical ceremonies. That bond with Rhiannon with each other makes saying goodbye harder. In chapter 16, Elaine meets with mercenary captains. In this meeting, she dismisses Millar, Captain Millar, who she has a lot of suspect over. She's no longer grateful for him saving her life. She's trying to figure out how to deal with him. It's the whole thing. And then Nori meets with Elaine and has a thief with him, whose skills might mean that he could track down Captain Millar and follow him, see who he meets with and who he really is. And Elaine uses a finder weave on him to kind of keep track of his whereabouts. And then in chapter 17, Dylan has been seeking for info on the plans of other nobles who are mostly neutral. And then it is discovered that Rianne Corley has been found dead by the power. So, yeah, it's getting serious. They decide that the kin will stay in like buddy system groups to keep each other safe. This has been a quick summary, but it's already more interesting. As we've seen, it's been a mostly POV of main characters, so I've been interested in it. I'm not too picky about that. I've been reading a lot through the audiobook, so I have to kind of go back to get my summaries and remember things and take note of things. So if I miss something, I don't super care. It's the main gist of the characters. And you will see me in either a week or two with another video about the second half of book 11. So, what do you guys think of this book? Where would you kind of rate it on your scale of Wheel of Time books? And do you have any favorite moments? Any interesting character pieces that you think should be pointed out? Or world stuff that I don't notice because A, it's my first reading, B, I don't always notice that stuff. But yeah, super cool. I'm enjoying it, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry if the audio is bad. I can't really tell right now, but I'll find my pieces for my microphone. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in a little bit with another video and with more Wheel of Time content. So